Travis Wayne Goodsall. So I had fun today, and only the one video people are appreciating, sort of. At least they're watching it. But yeah, I've done the videos a long time ago. I haven't done it since. But I was raised up as Mormon, but my mom had set it up for me to pursue a career in women's fashion, and yet the conflict of being Mormon is that I'm not allowed to. She sort of set me up. She would put the Sears catalog that had expired after getting the new one, set it on the table. We kids, stupid pronouns. It should be I am me, unless it's in a clause. But anyway, the siblings would sit around the kitchen table and we'd do collages, taking out the pictures. I guess my mom was expecting me not to go into the women's fashion, not to notice, despite hitting puberty at 10 and a half, summer of 80, 10 and a half, well, 10 and a few months. But then my sisters, I'm not sure if it was shared or if only Tiffany had it. It was fashion plates, and so I was the one knocking on their door asking to play with it, and had to play it right outside their door as they would shut the door. Not allowed in, and not allowed to take it to my room or anywhere else in the house. And so those things contributed to my interest in women's fashion. And so, yeah, I had a lot of fun. Especially the Pioneer one that nobody cares about. But, so I had a person demand that I get out of here. I would love to. I can't. I found out the very first month I was here. I'm stuck here. I'm trapped. And it was my complaining, filing complaints and criminal cases with the police and the shelter, that the chief of police and the shelter are working together to not do what's necessary to save our lives. And yeah, they threw the case manager at me to distract me with house hunting, which I already know it's worthless. Nobody wants to give me a home because of the eviction that was forced upon me illegally and wrongfully. And the courts of Utah refused to acknowledge my counterclaim of wrongful illegal actions because of the way the justice system is set up to have the plain prosecution request an expedited hearing to bypass the whole case. So that's the risk of this place, is F-bombs getting dropped. And but this place is contaminated. Tried to go to the bathroom an hour ago. All stalls filled with guys doing drugs. And only a few who are getting sick. And the chief of police, Caruth, told me he just wants me to report the individual users to the security here. And it doesn't do any good. If they're doing meth, they can't smell it. How are they going to know anybody's using it? They can't. That's the whole thing. And meth is the big one that has contaminated this building. I've not been able to find spice or heroin contaminating a building. I guess, well, no, it's meth for the Breaking Bad, isn't it? Although I think I saw something where he was doing heroin also. Haven't watched the show. But even if we were to get all of the users out of the building so that only those who don't use are here, the place is still contaminated. And the place refuses to decontaminate it because it means moving us elsewhere until the building is decontaminated, which means they have to spend the money that they're using for their paychecks on us, finally, to getting us a place to stay. And that's the whole point here in Utah. The state of Utah and the local governments all purposely use their land for other building projects than for housing for the homeless and for those who are poor. I've done the videos previously, years ago, as I had witnessed what was being done here. That's why I watch the local news on a regular daily basis, is to keep up on the little things that they're trying to sneak through. And even Senator Mike Lee was trying to have it federalized, but he was rejected, as I think everything he tries to propose gets rejected. Nobody likes him in Congress. But they're literally herding us together in the shelters, which is human trafficking, because the shelter profits from it, as the church likewise wants in on the action, as they donated, and then Mormons give back in tithing. And I have had an impact, though, because the other day I found out that Gail Miller and the Romney guy are no longer involved with the shelters. And so word gets back to them somehow. I don't know which source, whether it's the videos that I'm doing or if it's the complaints I've filed. But the problem is not solved simply by removing key Mormons or eliminating the people who use. The building is contaminated, and it's getting us sick. There's an initial surface sickness, coughing, but because of what's happened to me by the church, I know that internal organ failure is next, and I'm starting to experience that stage. For the elderly, they may or may not get into that quicker, or they may bypass it and go right to death. But that's next. When you have organ failure, you're going to have death follow it. And being poor, the hospital insurance is not going to pay for new organs, especially if it has to be a donated organ, where there's long lists and we get pushed way to the bottom. Again, we're homeless, we're expendable. The system that's being done here with this extermination was inspired by Nazi Germany. Yeah, the Holocaust of the Jews in the gas chambers. Obviously, it's not to that extent, but it's inspired by it, because we're being rounded up, having been identified as a group that is undesirable, and we're being profited off of, and we're being tortured to death as we're getting sick, and it worsens over time because there is no housing for us. They purposely set it up so that there would be no housing. They're purposely putting in more wealthier people more prosperous people, to kick out those who are poor among us. And it's backfiring on them because the poor can't leave. We've got nowhere to go. As you hear in the news about the tent cities being bulldozed and even people being thrown away in the dumpsters in that process. This is a horrible human atrocity that's going on here in Utah. And it's all ordered by the church. The government are following the orders of the church and are purposely doing this. Why? Zion. Remember? They're setting up for Zion. They don't want poor in Zion. Scriptures say there are no poor in Zion. So they got to replace the poor with rich so that there are no poor in Zion. It's a horrible atrocity, but hilarious as to the absurdity of their thinking. It's similar with the Middle East. There will be peace when the other side is dead. And it's just a no-win situation when one side refuses to be humane. That's what we're faced with. We are trapped, we are hurting, we are dying, and we're being profited off of. And I can't get the government, I can't get the local police, I can't get anybody, lawyers, nobody wants to step in and stop this. Nobody wants to protest it. Nobody wants to do anything to save us and help us. And I'm the only one reporting on it, obviously. And the news isn't doing it. News won't do it. They are threatened by the church not to do it. But I am curious about Gail Miller and the Romney guy quitting. You know, it's the type of thing where everything hit the fan and you get out before you go down with the ship. But all they need to do is run a test. The symptoms that I got were from a company here in Utah that decontaminates buildings. So they kind of know their job. But even they can't do anything for us. They have to wait to be hired. And so we are trapped. And we're supposed to have deep clean this week, starting tomorrow. But we were so short-staffed today that they had to move the check-in that we have to do every day in order to keep our bed, which we're not allowed to make this a home. We have to downsize. They tell us to downsize every day. We cannot make this our home. And they won't give us homes. And we're trapped here. We're being held hostage. We're being human trafficked. We're supposed to stay down, stay poor, stay homeless. But the check-ins were being combined at the front check-in desk because of the short staff. And if they're magically going to have employees show up tomorrow for the week, but it's just, why are employees gone? Are they sick too? Like the Colorado library that had to close down for meth contamination. It had to be decontaminated twice because the first time didn't do it. And this place is far more contaminated than that library. There is no way that library is as bad as this place is because of the sickness that is just spreading, and it goes in waves. I've noticed. People are getting it in waves. So yeah, the church has caused our extermination. And in Operation Rio Grande, I saw that it was an extermination order. And they're doing wave 2 of the extermination order since the first one failed so miserably.